you, Chris Godinez, licensed professional counselor, also the host of We Need to Talk on every Sunday at noon. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other therapist for that matter. Boom, shakalaka, done. I'd like to thank my sponsor, BetterHelp, BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. They're an online therapy company. They are international. They have over 40,000 therapists working for them. They are awesome. They are easy to get a hold of. Just go to www.betterhelp.com/Chris Godinez, fill out some questions, and they will place you with a licensed professional, master's level or PhD level therapist near you. Thank you, BetterHelp. Okay, so the question today was hyperfocus versus overfocus. Okay, the ADHD phenomenon of tense fixation. This is from attitudemag.com, Understanding ADHD Hyperfocus. Hyperfocus is a common but confusing symptom of ADHD. It is the ability to zero in intensely on an interesting project or activity for hours at a time. It is the absolute opposite of distractibility, and it is common among both children and adults with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Hyperfocus refers to an intense fixation or on an interest or activity for an extended period of time. People who experience hyperfocus often become so engrossed they block out the world around them. Children and adults with ADHD often exhibit hyperfocus when working intently on things that interest them. Hyperfocus, how does it affect children and adults? For children, the object of hyperfocus may be playing a video game. I've seen that a lot. Or watching TV. Adults might hyperfocus on social media, scrolling, or shopping. But whatever holds the attention, the result is the same. Unless something or someone interrupts, hours drift by as important tasks and relationships fall by the wayside. People who think ADHD means having a short attention span misunderstand what ADHD is, says Kathleen Nadeau, PhD, a psychologist in Silver Spring, Maryland, and the author of ADD Friendly Ways to Organize Your Life. A better way to look at it is that people with ADHD have a dysregulated attention system. What causes the ADHD brain to hyperfocus? Like distractibility, hyperfocus is thought to result from abnormally low levels of dopamine, a neurotransmitter that is particularly active in the brain's frontal lobe. This dopamine deficiency makes it hard to shift gears and to take up boring but necessary tasks. Children and adults with ADHD have difficulty shifting attention from one thing to the next, says ADHD expert Russell Barkley, PhD. If they're doing something they enjoy or find psychologically rewarding, they'll tend to persist in that behavior after others would normally move on to other things. The brains of people with ADHD are drawn to activities that give instant feedback. In the view of Larry Silver, MD, a psychiatrist at Georgetown University Medical School in Washington, D.C., such intense concentration is actually a coping mechanism. It is a way of dealing with distraction. College kids with ADHD tell me they intentionally go into a state of intense focus to get work done. Younger kids do the same thing unconsciously when they're doing something pleasurable, like watching a movie or playing a computer game. Often they aren't even aware that they're focusing so intensely. Is ADHD hyperfocus bad? There is nothing inherently harmful about hyperfocus. In fact, it can be an asset. Some people with ADD or ADHD, for example, are able to channel their focus onto something productive, such as school or work-related activities. Others allow themselves to hyperfocus on something as a reward for completing a dull but important task. Many scientists, writers, and artists with ADHD have had very successful careers, in large part because of their ability to focus on what they're doing for hours on end. But unrestrained, intense focus is most often a liability. Left unchecked, it can lead to failure in school, lost productivity on a job, and strained relationships with friends and at home. Children with ADHD often gravitate to what's entertaining and exciting and are adverse to doing things they don't want to do. Joseph Biederman, MD, head of the Pediatric Psychopharmacology program at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston. Combine this with poor time management and problem socializing, both of which are typical kids with ADHD, and the child can end up playing Nintendo all alone all weekend long. Hyperfocus in children, can it be trained? If a child with ADHD tends to get lost in their favorite activity, parents and teachers should first take steps to limit the amount of time the child is allowed to spend on that activity. So you can work with them on that. It's essential to develop a system to help your kids redirect. When the time comes to conclude an activity, Brady recommends being a bit flexible and, if possible, waiting for a natural break, the conclusion of a TV show, for example. But it's not enough to give your child a time limit and expect them to stop. I tell parents they need to do something to break the child's trance, such as tapping him on the shoulder, waving a hand in front of the face, or standing between them and the television or computer screen. Unless you do, the child may not even realize that you're trying to get their attention. They're not being disobedient, their brains just are not registering what you are saying. That's why the interruption should never be done angrily, and why you should allow a few minutes to shift the attention, and for the shift in attention to occur. So there really is no difference between overfocus and hyperfocus, and that tends to be an ADHD trait. So remember, this is ADHD is a brain thing. It's not a behavior. It's not a willful behavior. It's not like somebody wakes up in the morning and says, hey, I'd like to be super focused on this. You know, it's just their brain doing what their brain does. Much like with autism, you know, their brains do what their brains do. And it's a brain issue in both of those issues. It's not a behavioral issue. This is not caused by anything. This is the way the brain is wired. So hyperfocus can be a good thing if it's directed properly, and if the child is given a way to shift out of that hyperfocus into maybe doing something else kind of thing. And again, it's like the doctor said, it can be used to advantage if you're studying, or if you're working, or if you're trying to get a project done, or you're artistic, or, you know, that kind of thing. So it's really a good idea, if you recognize you have ADHD, to get help to cope, and how to deal with the hyperfocus, how to deal with the racing thoughts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Does it always take meds to do that? No, not necessarily. You know, so just not always. You know, sometimes you can do some limited behavioral changes, but again, sometimes it does take meds depending on the severity, you know. So so talk to your psychiatrist and talk to them about the hyperfocus. If you do have a great deal of hyperfocus, if you find yourself getting lost in video games like for an entire weekend, or hours and hours and hours at a time, or whatever, talk to them about that. You know, let them know, this is what's going on. This is how my ADHD is manifesting. This is what it's doing, and I need help with that. So you want to definitely do that. Is hyperfocus bad? Not necessarily, but it can be if it starts interfering in your life, if it stops you from socializing, and if all you're doing is playing video games but ignoring the world outside. That not necessarily a good thing. So the upside of hyperfocus, you know, you can be used to your advantage, but you want support. I would find a ADHD support group, especially if you're an adult. Get to an ADHD support group. I think that's important, because I think a lot of clients, when they realize they have ADHD, they feel shamed, number one, because it's like, oh, I thought I would grow out of it, and blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, not everybody does, you know, and it's unrealistic to expect everybody to grow out of it. So get with a support group, get with, you know, so you can talk about these things and get some suggestions and help and, you know, ideas, and also to know that you're not alone. There's a lot of adults out there that have undiagnosed adult ADHD. And I think one of the reasons why it's underdiagnosed in adults is because their physicians are afraid of people abusing the drugs used to help treat ADHD, which they tend to be uppers because it has a paradoxical effect. So Ritalin and Adderall, Vyvanse, all of those have a paradoxical effect. They're uppers, but they calm the system down. Just like when you drink a pot of coffee and it puts you to sleep. Well, it's a paradoxical effect. With people that don't have ADHD, they get hyper, you know, but people with ADHD, they can drink a pot of coffee and it's like having a sedative and they go to sleep. So, you know, it's a thing. So no shame. Go get help. Go get a support group. Get some suggestions. And pay attention to the hyper focused stuff. And do you have a hard time shifting out of it? And so that's when you would need to have some help with that. So there's that. All right, guys. And remember, there's no over focused versus hyper focused. That's the same thing, basically. So, all right. So you guys have a great week, and I will talk to you on, what is today? Monday? I'll talk to you on Wednesday. And then this next weekend, we're going to talk about shame and getting rid of it once and for all. Go pound sand, shame. Bye-bye. So we're going to talk about that. Don't forget to go to chrisgodinez.com and look up my appearance schedule if you wish to meet me for a meet and greet, because we can spend 2 hours together talking, which will be a lot of fun. I enjoy doing that, and meeting everybody and listening to stories, and it's a good thing. So, and you guys can ask questions and I will answer to the best of my ability. So there that is. All right, you guys have a great week, and I'll talk to you on Wednesday. Bye.